In the verse of Jujutsu Kaisen, Sukuna is no doubt the strongest sorcerer in history. During the Heian era, also known as the Golden Age of Jujutsu, his presence was so overwhelming that he was seen less as a human and more as a natural disaster, a true calamity. And throughout history, countless individuals fell victim to his power. So, in this video, we're breaking down every single victim who dared to challenge Ryomen Sukuna. Let's start from the very beginning, the Heian era. And here, the very first victim of Sukuna was none other than his own twin brother. You see, while they were still developing in their mother's womb, Sukuna committed his first act of pure ruthlessness. Driven by an overwhelming survival instinct and hunger, Sukuna devoured his own twin even before birth. He did this to ensure his own survival, as their mother was starving and could not sustain 2 children. This act prevented his brother from ever entering the world in that era, but his soul did not disappear. Instead, it entered a cycle of reincarnation, drifting through centuries until it finally manifested in the modern era as Jin Itadori, the father of Yuji Itadori. And this connection explains why Yuji was the perfect vessel for Sukuna. He is the biological son of Sukuna's twin, which means, technically, Sukuna is Yuji's uncle. Yeah, I was shocked too when I heard it in the first place. The next victim of Sukuna was Takako Uro. For those who don't know, she was reincarnated during the Culling Games arc, but back in the Heian era, she served as the captain of the Sun, Moon, and Stars Squad, an elite assassination unit serving the Fujiwara clan. Uro was specifically tasked with subjugating Ryomen Sukuna, but that encounter ended in absolute disaster. Sukuna completely annihilated her entire squad, along with the renowned 5 empty generals. Although Uro was the sole survivor of this massacre, Sukuna left her deeply traumatized, as seen during the Culling game, where Sukuna's mere presence was enough to make Uro cower in fear, causing her to lose all will to fight. Well, that wraps up the Heian era. Now it's time to return to the modern era, where Sukuna's first victim was none other than a grade 2 curse. You see, in the very first episode of Jujutsu Kaisen, Yuji swallows the rotting finger of Sukuna. This single act allowed the King of Curses to incarnate into Yuji's body for the first time in over 1,000 years. And the very moment Sukuna took control, the grade 2 curse was obliterated in a split second. Well, if you are enjoying this video so far, why not subscribe? Yeah, go on, click it. The next victim of Sukuna was the Finger Bearer. During the fearsome womb arc, after the curse had brutally battered Yuji Itadori and forced Megumi Fushiguro to retreat, Yuji surrendered control of his body to Sukuna. And from that moment on, Sukuna was simply toying with it. Just to show this so-called special grade what real Jujutsu looks like, Sukuna activated his domain expansion, and in a fraction of a second, the curse was completely annihilated. Like bro literally used a cannon to kill a mosquito. The next victim of Sukuna was none other than Yuji Itadori himself. You see, following the defeat of the Finger Bearer, Sukuna realized that Yuji was temporarily unable to regain control of his body. Seizing this moment, Sukuna decided to hold Yuji's life hostage purely to torment Megumi Fushiguro. Sukuna arrogantly claimed that he could survive without a heart, but if Yuji took control while the heart was missing, he would die instantly. And that's exactly what happened. This moment marked a double victimization. Not only did Sukuna physically kill Yuji, but his death also dragged Yuji's soul into Sukuna's innate domain. There, Sukuna manipulated Yuji into accepting a binding vow, a trap that would go on to have catastrophic consequences later in the series. And honestly, everything Sukuna did during Shibuya to mentally break Yuji only adds more weight to the fact that Yuji remains one of Sukuna's greatest victims. Next, we have Minako Hasaba and Nanako Hasaba. Both became victims of Sukuna during the Shibuya incident arc, simply because they tried to negotiate with him. I mean, come on, they were just trying to negotiate, man. You see, in a terrifying display of dominance, Sukuna ordered everyone present to bow. While the twins obeyed, they made one fatal mistake. They tried to command him. Desperate to avenge Geto, they offered the location of another finger in exchange for Sukuna killing Kenjaku. Sengoku. Sukuna, feeling insulted by the idea that a single finger gave them the right to order him around, he told them to raise their heads, only to kill Mimiko on the spot. When Nanako saw this, she immediately tried to attack him using her phone technique, but before she could even react, Sukuna took her down as well. Next, we have Jogo. Again, in the same Shibuya incident arc, Jogo was the one who fed Yuji 10 fingers in order to awaken Sukuna. Unlike Mimiko and Nanako, Sukuna didn't kill Jogo immediately. Instead, he proposed to Jogo that if he could land a single blow on him, Sukuna would join his side. What followed was a humiliating lesson in the gap between their powers. Sukuna toyed with Jogo, effortlessly dodging his immense lava attacks and mocking his refusal to use a domain expansion. And when it came time to end the fight, Sukuna chose not to use his slashing techniques. Instead, he defeated the fire curse at his own specialty. Challenging Jogo to a contest of firepower, Sukuna unleashed his Fuga technique, summoning a divine flame arrow. This attack completely overpowered Jogo's strongest move, Maximum Meteor, and incinerated him entirely. After this, Sukuna's next victim was none other than Mahoraga. You see, after Megumi Fushiguro summoned Mahoraga in an attempt to defeat Haruta Shigemo, Sukuna intervened to save Megumi's life, though not out of kindness. This guy had his own plans for the future. Mahoraga's terrifying ability to adapt to any attack it experiences forced Sukuna to take the fight seriously. Once the Shikigami adapted to his standard slashing techniques, Sukuna expanded his domain, Malevolent Shrine. But even then, Sukuna knew that slashing alone wouldn't be enough to finish it. So, while Mahoraga was busy regenerating from the relentless cuts, Sukuna revealed his trump card, his fire technique, Fuga. In that moment, he unleashed a massive fire arrow that completely incinerated Mahoraga in a single, overwhelming blast, ending the battle before it could adapt to the flames. And during that same fight, Mahoraga wasn't Sukuna's only victim. Thousands of Shibuya civilians became collateral damage as well. You see, when Sukuna activated his domain expansion, the city was showered with relentless destruction, dismantled, tearing through inanimate objects like buildings, and cleave targeting anything with cursed energy, which are basically humans. The devastation was instant and indiscriminate. Civilians trapped in subways, wandering the streets, or hiding inside buildings were erased without warning. Basically, Sukuna sacrificed thousands of innocent lives merely to defeat a single opponent, and just to victimize Yuji a bit more. The next victim of Sukuna, following the battle with Mahoraga, was Haruta Shigemo. At this point, Haruta was basically chilling, convinced that he had somehow survived the chaos of the night. But Sukuna doesn't let anyone walk away without a reason. You see, Haruta was the one who dragged Megumi Fushiguro into summoning Mahoraga in the first place. Because of that, Sukuna initially spared Haruta, but not out of mercy. Haruta's survival was necessary to keep the ritual active long enough for Sukuna to defeat the Shikigami and save Megumi. Once the battle was over and the ritual was voided, Haruta believed he had miraculously made it through the night. Overjoyed and convinced that his so-called miracles had saved him once again, he tried to escape. That's when Sukuna finally erased him, instantly, without a second thought. Now it's time to move on to the culling game, where Sukuna's very first victim was none other than Megumi Fushiguro. Remember how Sukuna saved Megumi back in Shibuya? Well, this is where you finally see why. Seeing Megumi mentally shattered after discovering that his sister, Sumiki Fushiguro, was possessed by a past sorcerer, Sukuna seized the perfect opportunity. He activated the Enchain Binding Vow that he made earlier with Yuji Itadori, granting himself control over Yuji's body for 1 minute. Exploiting a loophole in the vow's no harm to his friend's condition, Sukuna tore off one of his own fingers imbued with his soul and force-fed it to Megumi. In an instant, Sukuna transferred himself into Megumi's body, but he didn't stop there. To ensure Megumi could never fight back, Sukuna subjected him to relentless psychological torture. He bathed in a ritual of distilled evil to suppress Megumi's soul, and then committed the ultimate violation by using Megumi's own 10 Shadows technique to kill his sister Sumiki. Even though she was possessed by Yorozu, the damage was irreversible. Now, as soon as Sukuna took control of Megumi's body, his very next victim was Hana Kurusu, also known as Angel. You see, immediately after the possession, Sukuna tricked Hana by pretending to be Megumi. When she stepped stepped closer and went in for a hug, Sukuna suddenly attacked, biting off her shoulder and hurling her from the rooftop. The fall left Hana grievously injured, though she ultimately survived. The next victim of Sukuna was Ryu Ishigori. This happened shortly after Sukuna took control of Megumi's body by completing the bath ritual and then traveling to the Sendai colony to confront Yorozu. Sensing Sukuna's overwhelming presence, Ryu intercepted him. Initially, Sukuna casually slashed Ryu as he walked past, fully expecting him to die on the spot. When Ryu survived the attack, a feat Sukuna even acknowledged by saying he was tougher than he looked, Ryu made a fatal mistake. Instead of retreating, he chose to fight. Ryu tried to charge up his signature technique, Granite Blast, forgetting that he was facing none other than the King of Curses. Before he could even fire a single shot, Sukuna eliminated him instantly. And just to put things into perspective, this is the same Ryu who pushed Yuta Okotsu to his absolute limits. Yet to Sukuna, he was nothing more than a roadside distraction discarded in seconds. With that said, the next victim was obviously Yorozu. As I mentioned earlier, she was the one possessing Megumi's sister. Sukuna's true goal was to make Megumi suffer, but since Yorozu was the one inhabiting her body, that ultimately made her a victim as well. Even though Megumi was Sukuna's main target, Yorozu still paid the price for being caught in the middle of his cruelty. Alright, the next victim of Sukuna is none other than the honored one, Satoru Gojo. And yeah, I'll say this, Gojo could have survived if the author wanted it that way, but it is what it is. In the end, the strongest sorcerer of the modern era also fell as a victim of Sukuna. Throughout their battle, Sukuna made calculated use of Megumi's 10 Shadows technique, summoning Mahoraga, specifically to adapt to Gojo's infinity. Sukuna patiently waited, allowing the Shikigami to develop a blueprint for bypassing Gojo's defense. Eventually, Mahoraga adapted by expanding the target of its attack, not just to Gojo himself, but the world around him, cutting through the space Gojo occupied rather than attacking the sorcerer directly. And just when it looked like Gojo had secured victory with a massive hollow purple, Sukuna instantly replicated that adaptation. He unleashed a modified dismantle, now known as the World-Cutting Slash, an attack that targeted the fabric of reality itself. Infinity was completely bypassed, and Gojo was taken out before he could even react. Even in the afterlife, Gojo admitted Sukuna was the superior sorcerer. He acknowledged that Sukuna wasn't even going all out. That alone shows just how terrifyingly strong Sukuna truly was, even while fighting in Megumi's body. If he had been in his original Heian era body, honestly, I doubt anyone could have defeated him. Now, the very next victim after Gojo was none other than Hajime Kashimo. Honestly, what is there to even say about this guy? He was hyped up as an incredibly powerful ancient sorcerer from a past era, someone who had waited his entire life just to fight Sukuna. I mean, this guy witnessed the full battle between Gojo and Sukuna and still believed he could defeat the King of Curses. And honestly, most of us thought he put up an incredible fight, but instead, my guy barely survived for even 2 chapters. Actually, not even that, more like 1.5. The moment Gojo died, Kashimo jumped straight into battle, eager to use his one-time curse technique, Mythical Beast Amber, which reconstructed his body into pure electrical phenomena to push beyond human limits. He was completely convinced this would be enough to defeat Sukuna. Sukuna's response? He fully incarnated into his true form, restoring his 4 arms and 2 mouths. And once that happened, the fight was over. Sukuna completely overwhelmed Kashimo, grabbing him, pummeling him relentlessly, effortlessly shrugging off his lightning attacks, and ultimately taking him down without breaking a sweat. Yeah, that was it. Next, we have Hiromi Higuruma. Surprisingly, he actually managed to trap Sukuna inside his domain expansion, Deadly Sentencing, and even secured a death penalty verdict. However, this is where things took a turn. Sukuna escaped true punishment due to a technicality. The judgment ended up confiscating his cursed tool, Kamutoke, instead of his lethal innate technique, basically pure plot armor. Even so, Higuruma didn't back down. He continued fighting while wielding the one-hit kill Executioner Sword. Sukuna, recognizing Higuruma's talent as being on the same level of Satoru Gojo, began to toy with him. And in that very moment, Higuruma learned reverse curse technique on the fly. I mean, yeah, this guy's potential was absolutely insane. Eventually, Higuruma managed to stab the executioner's sword straight towards Sukuna's palm, but even that wasn't enough. Sukuna casually severed his own arm before the blade could even make contact, completely nullifying the instant death effect. Right after that, Sukuna slashed Higuruma down, killing him on the spot. Though, miraculously, Higuruma ended up surviving in the end. The next victim of Sukuna was Choso, and personally speaking, he was one of my favorite characters in the series, making his death one of the most heartbreaking moments for me. Honestly, let me know in the comments who your favorite character in Jujutsu Kaisen is. Now, after an intense battle where Yuji Itadori and Choso fought side by side, Sukuna regained his domain expansion Malevolent Shrine. While Yuji managed to endure the slashing attacks using simple domain, Sukuna followed up with his devastating fire technique Divine Flame, meant to incinerate everyone caught inside the barrier. Realizing that Yuji would never survive the heat of that attack, Choso made an instinctive choice. He sacrificed himself, forming a sphere of blood around Yuji and using his own body as a shield against the inferno. The flames were so intense that Choso's blood armor and his flesh were vaporized almost instantly. And finally, the last victim of Sukuna was none other than Yuta Okotsu. You see, in their first encounter, Yuta managed to trap Sukuna inside his domain expansion Authentic Mutual Love, successfully creating an opening for Yuji to strike at the boundary of Megumi's soul. However, Sukuna took a desperate gamble. He counterattacked with a world-cutting slash, dealing a mortal wound to Yuta. Forced to continue the fight, Yuta made an unthinkable decision. He chose to become a monster. Using Kenjaku's copied technique, Yuta transplanted his brain into Satoru Gojo's body in order to wield the Limitless technique. Despite this extreme sacrifice, Yuta ultimately fell victim to the overwhelming gap in experience. During a domain clash with Sukuna, he burned out Gojo's technique, hit the 5-minute limit of his copy ability, and collapsed, though Yuta also survived in the end, thanks to Rika's life support and Shoko's healing. Click on this video next, where we made Sukuna fight the strongest characters in all of anime history. Go on, check it out.